As some of you will know, some of you were here, 12 months ago we gathered in exactly the same venue to have the annual conference for 2022. And I have to say, it just feels like yesterday, really. But a lot has happened in the 12 months that have intervened between that, come after that conference and now, leading up to now. It's been a very, very busy time for us and a very rewarding time as we've seen our own intellectual focus develop and widen. And we've seen the fruits, I think, of a number of the projects that we've been working on here at the Institute for some while. I'm just going to start by giving you a few very brief edited highlights of those. Our Wealth Economy project which is led by Diane Coyle, co-director of the Institute, has gone from strength to strength, has attracted a lot of influence, a lot of interest, and indeed garnered influence. We've cited in the US government's natural capital strategy and also in President Biden's economic report. In the UK, we've had a lot of interest from a number of councils, local politicians, including here in Cambridge, in the idea of applying the 6 capitals framework, which is at the heart of that wealth economy work. Secondly, some of the different publications we've brought out on various aspects of the UK's productivity challenges, on left behind communities, on the importance of social infrastructure, have become key points of reference in British policy debates. Some of that work's been undertaken in the context of the ESRC's flagship Productivity Institute, some of it with the support of the British Academy and Power to Change. And then thirdly, I just pick out the work we've been doing on the British Constitution. No small topic, that. That's a 2-year partnership we've been working on with our colleagues at the Institute for Government, which has brought out a whole host of papers, had a number of events, and I think stimulated a very wide-ranging and topical set of conversations about some of the institutions and issues that fall within its compass. We've also, in the last year, I think, started to broaden the ways in which we communicate with our audiences. Our new podcast series, Crossing Channels, is going from strength to strength. And our colleague, Matthew Agarwala, took part in a very innovative musical collaboration, Hebrides Redacted, which records the devastating impact of species loss in the UK and has been performed at a number of festivals in the UK to great acclaim. Now, just before lunch, I think Matthew's going to be giving a very brief introduction to that piece, and we're showing it, as you probably spotted already, on the plasma screen in the buttery. I should add, we will also be at lunchtime showing some slides relating to the work of our visiting Leverhulme professor, Marie-Claire Cordonnier-Sager. That's just a taster. There's a whole lot more that we've been doing, and you can find out more about that by going to our website, and also those of you in the room can pick up some of the publications that have been stored next to the registration desk. So let me turn to today. How is it going to work? We have 4 panel discussions, as you can see from the programme, each of which covers a key policy question that falls within the ambit of one of our 4 programmes of research and engagement. Those are on place, progress, productivity, and decision-making in government. Now, after all that, we'll have a short intermission and then a keynote address from Professor Anna Vignoles, Director of the Leverhulme Trust in the UK. After that, there is a drinks reception, which I think is scheduled to start at 6:30, to which you are all invited. Now, because I'm opening this year, we tend to take it in turns, I get the joys of all the housekeeping points, which are my favourite bit of the conference, of course. Those of you who are tweeting, I was just looking to see, there is a Twitter handle for the conference. Also use the hashtag Bennett Institute, please. We have, as you may have seen, a professional photographer who's moving around taking photos. If you do not wish to be photographed, please make yourself known to him or a member of staff. Our events team can be identified by the green, not the white, by the green colour of their lanyards, and please talk to them about that or indeed any other query that you may have. We've set up a quiet room should you need to go out and do some work during the conference, which is the Bevan room, which is just, if you go back into the foyer area where we were all having coffee, it's a room just off to the side there. In case of emergency, use the fire exits and go to an assembly point. The nearest is, I think, the Hepworth sculpture, which is just, you'll have seen, just out on the right over there. And then the really important bit, coffee and lunch will be served back in the foyer area that you've just walked through. So that's enough from me, I think, by way of opening. Just before we get going with our first session, I want to invite onto the stage Peter Bennett, our founding benefactor and a huge and continuing source of support for us, to say a few words of welcome. Peter.
Thanks, Mike. It's always a pleasure. I think this is the fourth time we're here. I think we started in 2018 with Diane being an inspirational choice by the university. It's my, I suppose, privilege really to thank a number of people. The Master and Churchill have been fantastic. Each of the 4 occasions we've had this conference, they've put on a fantastic display. The days have run smoothly from 7 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, and the buttery bath being kept open and important things like that. But just the attitude of the staff and the efficiency with which we're supported at Churchill is incredible. So thank you, Athene, to you and all your team. I'm not sure where you are, but I know you came in a bit earlier. The Bennett Institute have a fantastic team who make this happen, and that goes on for months before, and probably from the early hours of this morning until the early hours of tomorrow morning, they'll be working to ensure that everything is done, that the videos are online, that people get to where they need to go, and that any emergencies are dealt with. So Rebecca and your team, thank you. I don't think I've ever encountered a better team and leadership from the perspective of organizing a conference like this. I should just highlight a couple of things. I've got family here. I first came here less than 50 years ago because my sister was getting engaged to somebody at this college, and she was at Girton. And I guess it left an impression because I applied here the following year and was very fortunate to get in. And since then, one of my nephews has come here, and we've had a long connection with Cambridge, and greatly appreciative of the benefits of coming here and studying here. So there's a long history, and a lot of that goes back to my parents, and I think I'll just talk about 2 topics. One is history, and the second is the difference between investment and expense. History. This college is the national and Commonwealth memorial to Sir Winston Churchill. My father, I think, was 14 when the war started, and by the age of 17 was in the Far East with the RAF, and ended up in 1945 in Hong Kong, where he met my mother, who'd managed to survive through the war in the Japanese invasion, and they married and had a number of kids, 6 of us, and we had the benefit after 14 years in Hong Kong for me of finishing our education in England. And I do think that it's a privilege that we should continue to extend more broadly than perhaps has become the case in recent years with public policy, that the benefits that those of us who didn't come from privileged backgrounds had from a system in the 60s and 70s. There are disadvantages of the current system, and I'm sure we'll talk about education more broadly during the course of the day. Anyway, I wanted to talk about history. This is the National Memorial. When the idea was considered by Winston Churchill, he decided among all the things that he could have selected as a national or Commonwealth memorial to start a college devoted to science at Cambridge. And this memorial, which would have probably cost, I don't know, £20 million back in the day, £10 million, whatever it was, somehow or other they got the money together and they decided that it was a worthwhile investment. But it was an investment. And that investment, continues to produce a return for the country and for individuals that is very, very hard to put a magnitude to, but it's clearly many, 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 many times more valuable than the original investment made. And so as we look at history and we look at decisions we make, and as we tell our children about the need to buy their first property and put down a deposit, and it's not an expense, it's an investment. Just as buying a home is an investment, many of the decisions in the public policy area around transport, around infrastructure, are about thinking about things as investments and using an appropriate discount rate. And they're not about the individual cost that goes through the budget in an individual year. And so Diane will know that's one of the things I think causes us to make mistakes in how we look at decision making. That the benefits of decisions often accrue to future generations, but the costs are often taken by people today, and that perhaps is one of the reasons why we don't always make the best decisions. The second thing I wanted to talk about was I think the reason behind this decision to do something in the public policy area is a belief that we can do better as a society, as an economy, if we try to consider the key aspects of what makes for a thriving society and economy, and that is that there should be economic growth, and we can, there are various ways of defining economic growth and wealth, but thinking about broader economic growth and definitions of wealth is one of the things that the Bennett Institute is very focused on. And secondly, and it's in the mission statement for the Bennett Institute, it's about this wealth being shared by all. And I think that distribution of wealth is as important a factor, and getting that right is for me, clearly an important part of public policy, but we'll no doubt hear more about that today. I'm sure I've forgotten to say thank you to more people, but I think I've said more than enough. I've probably been too controversial. I'm sorry if I have been. I'm sorry if I've been opinionated, but I feel passionately about the work that's being done here, the success of the people here, the team here, a tremendous team of 20-odd people, which I think will keep growing. And the amazing thing about the team here is the spirit of teamwork that is there in the Bennett Institute. Apparently in many other academic institutions, getting your name on the paper and where you get your name is very important. But this is one of the few places where that's not important, where the senior leadership gives support and encouragement and share, and there isn't a fighting over who gets the credit. So well done to you both. Anyway, with that, thank you very much.